Wired Axcess.
We'll do it live.
Wired Axcess.
Do it live.
Wired Axcess.
We'll do it live.
Wired Axcess.
Welcome to Wired Axcess Podcast, where I'm your host, DJ K-Dub Omaha. To my left, I have current Gretna Dragon champions and future Husker softball players. On the far left, we have Skarlett Jones. Then we have Carlie Muhlbach. Muhlbach. See, you got that other name in my head.
There's so many ways to
All right, so for those that don't know, I mean, all you got to do is have one name that just doesn't go smooth, and then it just goes from there. But we welcome you guys to the show. Thanks for following. Remember, Plug and Play Player of the Game is something that we're always out and about doing coverage of local sports, whether it's volleyball, softball, football right now with state going on. But your two adventure, man, first of all, Gretna has went, how long did you go there all 4 years?
So I transferred there for my senior year. I started at Hastings High School for freshman.
So then you're like 70 some wins and like 4 losses or something crazy.
Yeah.
And for you?
Yeah, I went there all 4 years. So
that team has only lost, I think, 11 games in 4 years.
Yeah, not very many.
Once again, I want to say congratulations, 38-0. That's a big accomplishment in itself. But I think the atmosphere that is continuing to grow for women's sports, especially in softball in this area, is just going through the roof. You both are committed to locally Nebraska, so you're going to be homegrown. But I know that the process to get to there is a little different for each of you. And the best part of what I like to do is get into those details of the scary stuff that kids sometimes don't know, right? You're like, what videos do I post? What stuff are recruiters looking for? And it's like the way that we always constantly say it, if you have the talent, they're going to find you. Obviously, coming in from Hastings, what was it like in the atmosphere of Hastings that's different than what Gretna was when it comes to softball?
The culture was different. The way that Coach Hurd basically did things to make us bond in a certain way and connect in a certain way, that helped us be more united as a team, and that's what helped us, like have the success we had. And then Hastings, we did a lot of right things there, but it was just, it was one culture compared to another culture, and that's what I really like about Gretna is the culture that they built.
So for you, before we get to Skarlett, we'll also going through the classes. Class A, Class B. What would you say for softball is some of the difference that you see going on?
Probably not a lot of differences. I'd say the only difference is pitching wise. Class A, you could see a little bit better pitching, more spin on the ball, more velocity. Class B, just still great pitchers, but just a little different. So that's kind of the difference.
Skarlett, you did 4 years at Gretna. What do you think has been one of the key to your guys' success so far, and why you really let that grow into who you are?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of that culture piece, like Carlie said. So I think focusing on that, I think we have been focusing on it for the past 4 years since I've been there, but I think this year we really got it right. And that was just connecting with each other, kind of outside of softball too, which I think helped. And that like resonated with me as a person, like bringing it, not just the sport, because at some point in your life, and like with us now, like we're done with Gretna softball, but I'm still going to have those friends for the rest of my life.
Well, I'm glad that you brought that up, because friends, role models, family, it all goes together. And I only say this because I know a player that is a younger underclassman for you guys. What is the relationship and what does it mean to you to have a little sister on the team, one that you can kind of looks up to you? You're able to kind of help them understand what the tradition is coming through and what you guys are going through.
Yeah. So we always talk about how like we're trying to leave the program in a better place and build it, and the people before us did that. So like when I was a freshman, I had Ensley Frame, who played at Creighton, and Faith Mills, who was at UNO and is now at USD. So I think kind of being able to transform into that for somebody else was really cool, because I had that when I was younger.
And for you, Carlie, what is the molding? And I mean, if you have siblings, it's sometimes the closer teammates are closer than your siblings. What was that like for you?
Yeah, so when I got to Gretna, we had a thing called Little Sisters. So you had 2 little sisters, and basically the whole idea of that was to be their role model. Like, you're the older person, you have somebody, like they have somebody that they can rely on. So just being that role model for them, being that leader for them is what we really tried to strive with.
So the past 2 years, of course, you both committed in 2023, which I don't know, does it help your senior season to have that off of your back? Or does it also put a little more heat on it because the playing has to be up to the expectation? What would you say?
For me personally, it took a lot of pressure off because for I don't know how many years I was so focused on recruiting and getting to that next level, and then having that pressure off of me all of a sudden was just great. Like, I could play freely and have no fear of failure and just be the athlete that I am.
Skarlett, how about for you?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it kind of puts a little bit of a target on your back, but I wouldn't even call it a target. I don't think it's like, I think people see that and kind of look up to it again, even from other teams and other places. But yeah, I think it relieved a lot of the pressure because a lot of like your high school season is about getting recruited and where you're going to go and all that stuff. So I thought it helped just to commit early.
Well, Skarlett, with you, your recruiting process, what would you say is something that you learned from it that you wish you would have known when you were a freshman that you would pass on to someone? And what's something you think that you really took grasp of it all the way until you committed and was able to feel comfortable with that decision and knowing where you want to go?
I think I would say one thing is like just to enjoy the process. Like, it's super stressful when you're in it, but then when you look back on it, it's like it really shouldn't have been like that because you're like so lucky and blessed to have the opportunity to be able to choose and like have those options. And then one thing I think I kind of grasped was like, you're not just looking for a school to like, you're playing softball isn't your whole life. So I think finding like coaches like I did at Nebraska that really liked me as a person and not only a player was really important for me.
And for you, Carlie, of course, what was it like when you were at Hastings, just the process? And then what changed when you got to Gretna? Obviously, you made your decision still early in your first year as a junior, but.
Yeah. So I wasn't getting a lot of looks when I was at Hastings, but that's not 100% of the reason why I transferred to Gretna. But once I got to Gretna, I started getting more looks. I think it was just because I was older. I was more mature when I was playing. Just, I was closer to UNL, closer to UNO, all that. So once I got in that area of softball, I was able to just, play freely and just got those looks from those coaches.
When you say the looks at Hastings, how do you overcome those thoughts of going, man, I'm not getting what I think I should? If I'm an athlete today, how do you get over that?
Yeah, I think you just can't let it get in your head, because if you let it get in your head, then you're not going to, like I said, be able to play freely. You're going to have that fear of failure piece. You're not going to be able to compete as hard as you could. Just all those things that allow that pressure does to you.
Select softball, obviously it is a huge thing locally. Many of you, I think for just even Gretna, you guys had probably 7 or 8 that are on the same team, maybe less. Yeah. But it makes a difference. The competition that you're seeing outside of the state, obviously the Nebraska Gold has done amazing things along with all the other programs. And I only say Nebraska Gold because I've interviewed probably more of them. But the programs around here are making statements amongst the country. It's not locally, even though everybody's like, there's so many teams. What does it mean to play on a national level like the Nebraska Gold? Or who did you play for? I'm sorry.
So I played for Gold.
Okay. Okay. See, I thought you did. Yeah. I thought you did towards the end. So what is it like, just that national stage, and how does it really push your competition to live up to who you want to be when it comes to the sport?
Yeah, Gold helped with all the recruiting and stuff. We played everywhere, so like we competed everywhere, and that was a good part of the recruiting process. And
for you, Skarlett?
Yeah, I think it's really cool just to be able to play on a stage like that. But yeah, again, I think it helped a lot with the recruiting process. But yeah, overall, I just think it's cool to play some of the best talent in the nation, because you don't always see that in the state for high school. But yeah.
So I've asked most of the softball girls that I've interviewed, favorite place to play on the national level so far.
I would have to say California, just because it's almost like a vacation and a tournament in one.
Yeah.
That's been a regular.
I would agree with that. We went to the beach, we went to new places for food and all that. It was fun.
When you play at these bigger stages and you're seeing all this and you see the kids that are in the stands and you see, how does that kind of reflect of what you're currently doing at Gretna, but you also have that role when you go to Nebraska? The kids matter. They look, they see. Those are the people, obviously the future players or the future people that will be out to watch the sport. How important is that to you to understand how they are your future?
Yeah, you have to lead by example wherever you're at, on and off the softball fields, because those girls are looking at you, and you have to be a leader for them. You have to be that role model.
Yeah, I think growing the sport's really important, but I think what we have to remember is that those kids aren't going to remember if you went 3 for 3 or how well you did. It's just all about how you act, how you carry yourself, and I think that's really important to remember when you're playing in games like that with a lot of little kids, because we had a lot of young teams come for our high school games, and that was just important for us to remember, they truly don't care how good you are or bad you are at the sport. It's just about how you carry yourself.
You went through it with Gretna, switching with Gretna and Gretna East. How does that shape where Gretna's heading that you've seen so far? And how has it also given opportunities for others to continue to have the chance at either school?
Yeah, I think it was kind of crazy. Me and a couple other girls actually had to move houses to stay at Gretna to move back into the district. But I think with both schools, it's going to, give a lot more opportunities, which is nice. But I think it was crazy this year because we split schools and then we actually ended up with more girls on the roster at Gretna than we have ever had. So that was interesting.
See, and that just makes it harder, right? Because you don't, one, for obviously Title IX, there's no cutting, but also it's hard you have to have the expectation to where you want it. And you got to make sure the teammates come through. Of course, you didn't get that rival, but you got the taste of playing in the rivalry. What was it like to have a school that close that now you're these are people that I hang out with outside of here. These are people I got to see, because Gretna hasn't had that. My kids are Papio South. Those Friday nights are the biggest game in town, and it's an atmosphere that, it's going through the skin, right? And I know I went to a Gretna East volleyball, and that was crazy. So and of course I did come to your Gretna East softball. So just seeing it on that level, it's really eye-opening to see how Gretna's growing, and the atmosphere is becoming so orientated where you need that both teams in order to keep kids moving and progressing. 38-0 is a lot. 38-0 is great, but of course the moments, the memories, and all that getting up there is just like when you guys do your travel softball. You do remember the championships. You remember that, but I think it's the bonding and the outing. What do you feel when you're doing your travel ball, or even with your current team? What do you think is the most important thing that really gets you guys to get to that 38-0 that maybe some teams are lacking? Whether it is a leader, a few leaders, or whether it is just, it's my turn to be the top player, instead of everybody just letting their turn come as it goes.
I think that this year it helped a lot. Obviously, we had 9 seniors. So those leadership roles were kind of filled in different ways. So we had vocal, and then we had servant leaderships and leaders by example. So I think that helps a lot because leadership is really important. And then, just making sure that we talked about doing your job all year, and everybody's job looks a little bit different. But as long as you show up every single day and just do your job, I think that's what helped us get it done.
Yeah, definitely. And I would say, just having those bonds with the girls, tight. You got to be tight. And that's what causes success. So.
When you have, of course, players on your team like Alexis, who we obviously try to have with you, and now all 3 of you are taking that next step together, but the energy level for each of you is so different. But when it's together, it's a crazy bond. And now you guys are able to take it to the next level. What does it mean to have a leader that can be the dog, and you don't have to be the bark like an Alexis was? I hate to say it, but for state softball, every time that last third out, you knew it was a third out.
Yeah.
You know, and you can't like that. You either got the energy or you don't.
Yeah. We definitely, all three of us show leadership in our own way. And I think because of that, we're able to work so well with each other.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feed off of Alexis, which helps. I mean, it really does, because you can feel that energy, especially when you're playing in big games, and especially like state finals with Millard North. Like there was a bunch of people there, but we had to kind of create our own energy, especially like with their student section and stuff. So yeah, I think her bringing that kind of helped us all.
Stayed at UNO compared to Hastings. What did you feel about the atmosphere? What did you think of just the stage that they provided for you guys? This is year 2. I've gotten to DJ both of them. It's just that Class C game had probably the most, like the amount of crowd that they brought. That was crazy. What was it like for you guys playing in it and seeing the growth of softball?
Yeah, it was an amazing opportunity for all the girls, like the TV, the field, like just that experience in general. Just that really represents the growth that I think that we have in this sport.
Yeah, I think growing the sport's really important. So I think, again, yeah, the opportunity was super cool. And then atmosphere was crazy. I don't know if I've ever played in an atmosphere like that. It was super loud, all the people that came out. And it wasn't just Gretna and Millard North. Again, it was just a bunch of little kids and just people that just supported softball. So that was cool.
Yeah, I saw a full mix of schools, whether it was the Monarch students that were there who are normally there, or just parents. Like there was parents wearing all different type of gear. And I think it just helps with the atmosphere. Of course, with Nebraska softball, Jordy was the biggest thing that came back. How important was that for maybe even your guys' decision? Was it a part of it? Was it something you look at? I only say it because Nebraska wasn't on the softball map. They were there, but they're not where they're at a contender level like they are starting to roll back into.
For me, I based my decision off how the coaches treated me and how our connection was, how our bond is. And then everything we'll have access to there, the facilities, the training table, all that played a role in my decision. So, but mainly it was the coaches. How do they treat me as a person and how are we going to get the job done?
Nebraska was kind of always my dream since I've been little, I guess, just because I grew up here. So I kind of knew I wanted to go there as long as when I got there, that was the right fit for me. And I think it was. I guess at the time, Jordy wasn't like a super big, but like component in me going there or not. But I think now that she's there, it's super cool that we get the opportunity to play with her, especially because of her redshirt year. So it wasn't like a necessarily whether or not I was going there, but I'm really glad that it ended up happening that way.
Recruiting. Did you have other places that you went and visited? What was like that process for you that you would kind of go, okay, this is, no schools need to be judged, none of that, but just getting people to understand how important you brought up the feeling of feeling at home and feeling like you're a part of them. Did you have any experiences where you're like, okay, this, because I've had 4 kids go through or in college. The last one, he didn't want to go nowhere. He's just like, I'm just going to UNO. And I'm like, go visit these places. You'll know when you know.
Yeah. I already had a comfortable feeling with Nebraska, just going to their camps and just knowing the coaches, talking to the coaches. I did have other calls set up with other schools, but Nebraska was my first visit. And I just knew like right off the bat, I was like, this is home. This is where I'm going.
All right. I like that.
I visited Creighton and UNO and then talked with North Carolina and Wisconsin. But I guess people just said, like you said, you'll know when you know. And I got on campus and I talked with the coaches and I knew immediately. And I committed almost immediately after my visit. It was my 3rd visit that I went on. So yeah, I guess that was.
Did you go to an out-of-state visit?
No, I didn't. I had one scheduled for SDSU, but it wasn't late until like into late November. And after going to Nebraska, it would have been like a month later, and I kind of knew where I wanted to go.
I like that you said that you knew that. What was the factor for? Was it the home? Was it the state? Was it my parents can see me a lot? Like there's so many things that make it fit right when it comes to Nebraska.
Yeah, it just felt like home. Just when I stepped on campus, I wasn't nervous. I was I was just comfortable with it. And then my family plays a big role in it too. I'm a very family oriented person. So just being close with my entire family, everybody's from Nebraska. That'll be nice when they can come watch me play. So
That is huge. And for you, Skarlett?
Yeah, I used to I was like thinking about going anywhere at one point, but then as I've gotten older, I've gotten really close to my family. So I did not want to go out of state at all. So basically my options were Creighton, UNO, or Nebraska. And then Nebraska was just the right fit for me.
See, and I think the out of state, like, and I only say it because my daughter was supposed to go in state. That college closed. She was going to go play soccer. She ends up going to Manhattan, 3 hours away. You're like, it's not that far. But like every kid is so different where it's exactly to that point. I'm a homebody. I know where I want to be. I know where I want to go. Senior year, you guys are done with softball. What's the off season look like for you guys? And how does it change now that you got preparation for college? Is there still softball that you guys are going to play through the winter and spring? Or is it, no, we're preparing for next year?
So with me graduating early, I'll be attending UNL in January. So right now, kind of my off season looks like a lot of lifting, a lot of CrossFit, hitting almost every day, catching as many bullpens as I can get in. Just trying to get that preparation piece ready.
Say that one more time. The last thing you said of bullpens.
Bullpens.
Because the reason I say this is people don't understand how there are local facilities around here. If you want to catch, they will reach out to you to come catch. So if you think you're not practicing enough,
let me know.
But people don't understand, like, that's what it takes to be a D1 athlete.
Yeah, it's no break. Like, you're all go, no break. But like you said, that's what it takes.
And for you, Scott, what's about to happen?
Yeah, I'm going to Oklahoma this weekend. We're still playing. And then throughout the winter, we'll have club practice, lifting, hitting on my own, lifting on my own. But yeah, club practice throughout the winter. And then this next spring and summer, we'll do a full club season leading up to college.
So then for you, do you get to do anything in the spring?
So I think the plan is I'll redshirt this first semester until what would be my true freshman year. But I'll be able to, lift, practice. I'll be able to do things with the team.
Is that a conversation that they have with you and your parents? How does the red shirt process go if someone has to do that in the first year?
So I'm not really sure. I was just kind of told, and I didn't really ask questions. I'm just so blessed to have the opportunity to go down there early in the first place. So
no, these are good.
Yeah.
This is good because these are questions that some people just, it's you're blessed with what you're getting instead of going, I've got to go play and know that the opportunity is going to come when it's your turn. And when that time comes, instead of going, nope, I'm going early. I'm going to go play. I'm going to, there's a process. When you guys look back at this year, what do you think was the best thing that you personally overcame to have the success that you had? And what is one thing that you're looking to do better when you go into college that you have to overcome? For you, Skarlett?
I think for me, it's honestly the same thing in one. I think kind of getting rid of like my personal, like how I'm doing in that game and focusing on how am I leading my team? How can I help everybody else get better? That's been my biggest thing throughout my high school career, is like focused on my own stats, how I performed. So I think that's something that I slightly overcame. I think I got a lot better at it this year than I've been throughout my high school season. But I think going into college is something that I still want to work on.
All right. Well, if you watch the Ruby episode, like someone here, that right there. So I've interviewed her twice. That right there was her exact best thing that she enjoyed this last year, is when she was able to let loose the wins and losses and just play the game. And for you?
For me, compared to last year and this year, mine was just overcoming like mental stuff. I was the type of person, if I went 1 for 3 at the plate, that was a bad day for me, like it just wasn't really good at that time. But I feel like I've personally grown from it. I've shown growth in that area and just allowed the no fear of failure piece. I know I've said that a lot on this, but that's something that Coach Hurd really drills in your head. So I think
And
I've got
I
better
think
at that.
once you start feeling it, it changes the way you talk about it, because it is a afraid thing to say. No, I don't want to talk about fear. I don't want to talk about failure. But once you slowly understand that, especially softball, baseball, you guys' odds are one of the worst in the world. You're only getting 2 out of 10 or 3 out of 10 hits. Not saying you two, just in general. And you can make it.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to be 10 for 10.
Right.
And I think once and it's hard because as parents, we're talking about some of the wrong things and we're not always projecting it in the right way. We're like, you knew what to do. Why didn't you do it? You know, when you think of just growing up and you think of all those conversations, what do you think has been the most impactful from your parents to help you be the person that you are today? Or maybe even a coach that really helped you kind of get out of your shell and be the person that you're becoming?
Yeah. I want to give credit to my dad because he was always pretty hard on me, but that's what made me the way I am today. And I think if he didn't do that, then it would be a completely different, mindset, and it would be a completely different approach to the sport. And I'd like to give thanks to Coach Hurd too, because he really changed me from last year. So, but like he gave me tips on like how to overcome this, how to grow from that. And so I'd like to thank both of them.
Yeah, I would actually say the exact same thing. Coach Hurd with like the failure piece, learning from it, growing from it, and it's not the end of the world. Like you said, you fail 3 out of 10 times in baseball and you'll probably be in the Hall of Fame. Like, it's stuff like that. And then, just my dad, like, he's tough on me, but at the same time, he would go hit with me any hour of the day, any day. So yeah, I would just say that.
Well, I'm glad you brought that part up. What does it take to be Skarlett Jones and to be the player that you are? What is your, let's just say, a week? That way we can kind of put in people's mind what it takes, whether it's the extra workouts, whether it's in season, off season. You could even do a comparison. What does it take to be an athlete that wants to play at a D1 level?
I would say like my typical day right now, going into the off season, I do 1,000 tennis balls off the wall every morning. So that's just like glove work, and then go to school all day. And then after school, it's lifting and then hitting. And then if I can get in ground balls, someone to go hit me ground balls, that's what it would be.
All right. And for you?
For me, so a big part of my day is nutrition. So I'll wake up in the morning and I'll drink some type of protein shake or make eggs and toast and stuff like that. Go to school. And after that, it's usually CrossFit or bullpens or hitting or any of that stuff. Just get better every day.
All right. If you can do a different position, what would it be and why?
It's a good question. Well, I used to pitch, so I'd probably go back into pitching. I don't really know. That's a really good question.
I'd be a pitcher because sometimes I'm kind of a control freak. So I think if I could get back into a position where I could control the game a little more, that'd be good.
Man, I like that. That was good. Other sports. What was your favorite sport growing up? Was it always softball? And if it was always softball, did you ever have a point where you really had to look at yourself and go, am I burnt out? And I say that because, of course, as you're showing, it's an all year round. If you want to get to a high, you can play at a high level and not be all year round. But sports nowadays are getting more to be all year round. Was it your only sport? And was there a time of a burnout where you had to reset yourself?
Yeah, I think so. Personally, softball was always my number one sport. And like you said, it's getting year round. So I think it's important for athletes to take time off to where they can mentally and physically just reset. Because if you don't take time to do that with yourself, then you're going to get burned out. So it's important to mentally and physically just take a day off.
Did you ever have a time where you're just like,
there's been times where I was like, Dad, I can't hit today. Dad, I can't go play catch today. Like I've got to take a break.
So then what dad was it? Was it like me? Because I'm like, are you sure? Like, you got to be honest. Or was it one that said, you know what? You need, because I feel as a father, we sometimes don't give enough credit for you guys to be kids. And that's in any sport. It ain't just you. It's all kids in sports. You're just like, let's just stay in it instead of going, you know what? Let's just go down to the park, or let's go do something different.
Yeah, my dad understood. He would always throw me some crap here and there about like just jokingly saying, well, you got to keep pushing, stuff like that. But he understands.
And for you, Skarlett?
Yeah, I played basketball up until 8th grade year. And then after that, softball's all through the winter now. So I kind of had to stop. I would say I kind of felt the burnout piece a little bit sophomore, junior year, because I didn't understand the failure piece and I didn't know how to deal with it. So I would, if I went 1 for 3 in a game, I'd go straight from that game and go hit 1,000 balls. And that was just like, I didn't need to do that. Like mentally, that wasn't, I wasn't in a good space with that. So I think that I kind of felt like that then, but this year I kind of got over that, and that came with getting over the failure piece.
I like that you said that you used to go hit 1,000 balls thinking it was going to correct the 1 for 3, but it mentally didn't fix anything except for get you more thinking about how you're hitting. What do you think was the growth part for you on going, okay, I'm just not going to, because I think it takes a stronger person to look at themselves and go, I'm not going to do that. I know that's what I used to do, but I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I think a lot of that actually did come with committing, because then I was like less stressed out, and I'm like, there's a school that wants me. They see the good in me and all of that stuff. So it's just like, it really just wasn't worth it. Like it was honestly making it worse. And at that point I was like taking the quantity of the reps, and they weren't good reps. Like I was just putting the ball on the tee, swinging and getting another one. Like, so it just wasn't.
She said a key word, good reps.
Yeah, they were
not
bad
every
reps.
rep is good. Not every rep is good. When you look at your recruiting process, what's I don't know softball like I know football. And I know a lot of people, when they look at football, they just want to do highlights instead of doing their progression. What do you think athletes need to do for softball to get eyes on? Is it perform at these tournaments that you guys are lucky to go get with the gold and obviously out of state? Or is it to make sure that you have a huddle that you're constantly updating with what you do? What do you think is a key for the recruiting process?
I think that we have sports recruits, so it's just like huddle. I thought the biggest thing for me was reaching out to coaches over email. They couldn't email you back, but at least sending them an email saying, I'm interested in you, and then kind of making that email personal. So finding something off their website or talking about a game that they just played in. I think that helped a lot, because I would notice that when I would email a coach, I would see him at a game. So I think that helped.
This probably isn't good. I never emailed a coach.
No. Remember, this is good, because there is no one way to do it. And and especially nowadays, I mean, so many more people are finding JUCO is the way to help them to get the reps that they need to get to that status. So you not sending emails is not a bad thing. It's what works for you, but it's also knowing that that's still a possibility. Because sometimes people will beat themselves up going, man, I didn't send emails and I have no, but you're obviously going to Nebraska. What did you do to get what you felt was the offer?
So I had sports recruits that helped a lot. Me and my dad, we like, I don't know, I came from a lot of different travel ball teams, but I moved based on the exposure. So joining Gold, I was lucky to have the opportunity to play in all these different places with all this exposure. So I think that really helped me a lot.
Okay. See, that's key, because just because you're on a travel team doesn't mean they're getting you in the right place. It's not like they're doing terrible, but you're going to be seen if you have the talent and if you have everything that you need going right for you. Now, if you look at your senior year and your years prior, was there anything that you would say for school-wise, whether it's activities, whether it's friendships, anything of that sort? Is there anything you would look back and not regret, but just go, you know what? This is what I'm going to do better when I get to college? Because I feel sometimes athletes maybe miss some important things. I'm not talking about the partying and all that. I'm talking about sometimes just the friendship that might not even be a softball player just someone in your class that you've always gotten along, but you never reached out to them outside of class because you were so wrapped up in what you did?
Yeah, I would honestly just say like opening myself up more. Like I'm so consumed with softball. All my friends are softball and I don't hate that. Like that's my life and I love it. But I think just like finding those other people that I can connect with in different ways. And I think like at school I participate in FCA. So I think that helps too, just finding different groups of people to kind of relate to.
And especially in college, I mean, there's going to be so many groups, so many things. And for you?
Yeah, I would say I'm also very consumed with softball. When I first transferred to Gretna, I was like very shy, I guess is the right word. I didn't go out of my way to make those connections with people. And so this year, my senior year, that grew a lot with the bonding piece between people. But I'd say when I get to Nebraska, I'd really just want to go outside my shell, meet new people. And like Skarlett said, I'm a part of FCA as well. So hopefully they provide that in Nebraska. I'm pretty sure
they do. Yes.
So it's good to connect with people of like different groups. So like softball, maybe basketball, maybe FCA, whatever that may be.
What do you think is going to be your biggest jump getting to the college? What do you think is going to be the thing that is going to really eye open?
Definitely academics. We're so used to a 7.5 hour schedule now. Like, I don't know what my schedule will be like yet, but I just know it'll be a lot different.
I think with me, it's just not being with my parents all the time, like, or my sister. And so I think that'll be interesting. I don't know how that will go at first, but we'll figure it out.
The best part is you guys have all the right technology. So the Zoom call or FaceTime, all that stuff will work. When you're going to college, you've obviously got to look at majors and future. What is your goal with softball and what's your goal outside of softball when it comes to college?
So my goal with softball is just be a team player, compete like crazy all the time. Still having that no fear of failure piece. Because I'm sure once we take that next step, you're really going to be focused on a lot more. So just having that just in your mind. Yeah.
What's your major?
School. Forgot about that. Probably health and nutrition science or like physical therapy, athletic training, or sports psychology.
And do you have something outside after school that you're hoping to possibly do?
FCA.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think my softball goal is probably just be whatever the team needs me to be. Kind of utility type person, so infield, outfield, wherever. And then school, I'm not really sure what exactly I want to go into. Maybe I know I want to do something pre-med, so that should be interesting. Oncology, maybe optometry, I'm not for sure. So hopefully become a doctor after softball and then have a family of my own eventually.
When you what's the ideal career if you were thinking of one? Or have you even thought that far? It's okay if not. That doesn't change who you are.
I've thought about it, but it's probably like really up there. Like I want to work for, like I want to be on the athletic training staff for like maybe NFL teams or MLB teams, like at a high level.
That's not unattainable. That's something that you could obviously go for.
Yeah.
When you look at just the growth when it comes to the local area in softball, what do you think it's linked back to? Why do you think it is having the success? And I think it's across the state. It's not just locally, but there's a lot of good hype going on. What do you think is the best part that's growing softball to become the sport that it's becoming?
I think people that are in high school, college are like going out of their way to give back. So you see like people like Jordy and the Kamenzens and even like us in high school, like going and meeting with those little kids, kind of growing the sport there and growing their love for the sport. So I think that helps a lot. And I think Jordy coming back helps with that a lot too.
Ditto, like she pretty much hit the nail on the head with that one. So
when you look at your legacy that you guys have left for Gretna, leaving it better than what you came into, what do you feel you have left personally?
To give back to my community. With all of the, I guess, success that we've had at Gretna, just letting that be an inspiration to young kids coming through their high school area or whatever age they are.
I would say with our high school team, I think us seniors and coaches and honestly everybody on the team, but I would say mostly us seniors focused really on the culture piece and giving that to the upcoming seniors and upcoming high school girls. So I think hopefully that stays with them and they continue to build that culture for the girls to come.
Well, good luck this next year at Nebraska, but it's amazing that you guys not only were a part of a team, but you helped build a culture that hopefully, as they stated, your daughter could look up to if you're watching this, to see that if you believe the process, and when I say the process, you've obviously locked into what the coaches have given you. What is the number one thing that your personal coach, whether you're only deal with, obviously you have Coach Hurd, but sometimes you'll have a pitching coach or you'll have a hitting. What do you think is the number one lesson that coach taught you to take to the next level for yourself?
Oh, I gotta think about that. Go ahead.
I would say that it's so much more than a sport. Like, you have this sport, but you don't have it forever. And the relationships that you build with those people it's just so much more important. So making yourself a better person through the sport is what's the most important, not your stats, not how well you're doing, but building character.
I like that.
So I've had a lot of pieces of advice, like great pieces of advice, come my way from all the coaches I had. But I'd say the biggest piece that sticks out in my head is whether it's the real world or the softball field, you can't be high, you can't be low, you just have to be right in the middle. So going through thick and thin, you can't be anxious or overwhelmed or anything like that, and you can't be at your lowest point. You just got to remember to stay right in the middle.
I like that. Of course, there is now Athletes Unlimited given opportunity for pro softball. Do you see it growing as it has for volleyball, where there's multiple leagues that are given opportunities? And if so, is your goal still to possibly play after college? Is it possibly also looking at Team USA? I mean, that was probably one of the best parts that I heard from Ruby was her experience with Team USA, going over to Japan, and there's people that she thinks has no idea who she is, and they're sitting there with Ruby signs, and she's just mind blown. Because if you haven't been out of the country, you don't know. You're thinking, oh, these people don't know me. But she went to one of the biggest countries that is about the sport of baseball and softball that you can't explain it.
Yeah, I think that opportunity is super cool. I kind of when I was younger, that wasn't necessarily like a huge thing that you could like look forward to. I guess I don't know if I could see myself playing there yet just because of like career, so I'd have to like go to like med school and stuff like that, so I don't know exactly how that would work, but I think if I ever got the opportunity to do something like that, I don't know, I might take it. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, I think Athletes Unlimited has definitely represented the amount of growth that's happened in softball, because who knows what it'll be like in 10-20 years. But if I have that opportunity to play, after I'm done with my college career, then I'll definitely do that.
Well, I greatly appreciate your story. I appreciate your time. And once again, the Gretna Dragons 38-0, and they were two key components along with the rest of the girls that were on that team to make history, because the last time it was done was by Papillion, and it's been a little bit. But the last time for them to win a class title for softball was 2015, 9 years away, and that was Class B at that. Now they won Class A. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate your stories. And remember, if you like this, just share, like, follow, all that good stuff. But remember, go Big Red. Wired Axcess Podcast, part of the Hurrdat production. We'll see you next time.
A Hurrdat Sports Network production.